Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will turn the pages of Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Julius Caesar is a tragedy written by William Shakespeare in 1599. Set in ancient Rome, the play dramatizes the political conspiracy against Julius Caesar, his assassination, and its aftermath. It explores themes of power, loyalty, betrayal, and the moral complexity of political decision-making. Drawing from Roman history, Shakespeare crafts a narrative that reflects on leadership, republicanism, and the consequences of personal ambition intertwined with public duty. Plot summary. In the bustling streets of Rome, tension simmered beneath the surface as Julius Caesar, a victorious military leader, prepared to return in triumph. The people, ever fickle, had gathered to celebrate him, rejoicing in his success, but not everyone shared their enthusiasm. Behind the applause, dark murmurs of discontent echoed through the corridors of power. Some feared that Caesar, with his growing influence, would crown himself king, a fate that would spell the end of the Roman Republic. Among those concerned were the Roman tribunes Flavius and Marullus, who chastised the commoners for their forgetfulness. They reminded the people of Pompey, once their great general, now defeated by Caesar. These men feared the power Caesar had amassed and secretly hoped to curb it before it consumed them all. It was a prelude to the greater conflict soon to arise. Caesar, ever confident, moved through Rome with an air of invincibility. As he made his way to the capital, a soothsayer stepped forward from the crowd with a cryptic warning: "Beware the Ides of March." Caesar dismissed the prophecy with arrogance, viewing himself as untouchable. His hubris would prove to be his undoing. Among his inner circle, his trusted friend Brutus faced a moral crisis. Brutus loved Caesar, but he loved Rome more. Cassius, a senator fueled by jealousy and fear of Caesar's rise, played upon Brutus' patriotism, weaving a narrative of Caesar's potential tyranny. He compared Caesar's rise to a serpent in the egg, needing to be crushed before it could strike. Slowly, Cassius gathered allies among the senators, sowing seeds of rebellion. Brutus, conflicted but convinced that the assassination would save Rome from dictatorship, joined the conspiracy. As Caesar's power grew, so did the unrest. Cassius and his co-conspirators moved quickly, meeting under the cover of night to plan Caesar's downfall. They knew the act must seem noble, not an envious strike, and so they vowed to kill Caesar for the sake of Rome's liberty. Brutus, taking the lead, refused to kill Antony, Caesar's loyal friend, believing that without Caesar, Antony would be powerless. On the eve of his assassination, Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, awoke terrified from a nightmare in which Caesar's statue ran with blood, and Romans bathed their hands in it. She begged him to stay home, sensing doom. Caesar, briefly swayed by her pleas, agreed to stay, but the conspirators had anticipated this. Decius Brutus, another conspirator, arrived and cleverly reinterpreted Calpurnia's dream, assuring Caesar that it was a symbol of his strength and the lifeblood he would provide to Rome. Flattered, Caesar cast aside his wife's fears and decided to attend the Senate. As Caesar entered the Senate house, the tension was palpable. Artemidorus, a teacher who had learned of the conspiracy, desperately tried to warn him by handing him a letter. But Caesar, ever prideful, chose to ignore personal matters until later. Inside the Senate, Metellus Cimber, one of the conspirators, knelt before Caesar, pleading for the pardon of his banished brother. When Caesar refused, the conspirators closed in. One by one, they stabbed him, with Brutus delivering the final blow. Caesar, seeing his beloved friend among the attackers, uttered his last words, "Et tu, Brute?" With that, Caesar fell, his blood staining the Senate floor. In the chaotic aftermath, Brutus addressed the crowd, assuring them that Caesar's death was necessary for the preservation of their freedom. The crowd, easily swayed, accepted his reasoning, hailing Brutus as a hero. But Mark Antony, ever shrewd, had not yet made his move. With Caesar dead, he sought permission to speak at his funeral, promising to honor Brutus and the other conspirators. Brutus, trusting Antony's word, allowed it, unaware of the storm Antony would soon unleash. As Antony stood before the gathered masses, he began his speech, seemingly in praise of the conspirators, calling them honorable men. But with every word, he subtly undermined them, turning the crowd's sympathies. He revealed Caesar's will, which left generous gifts to the people of Rome, and showed them Caesar's wounds, the brutal marks of betrayal. The crowd, now enraged, shifted their loyalty. Antony's masterful oration ignited a riot, and the conspirators were forced to flee as chaos consumed the streets. In the days that followed, civil war erupted. Brutus and Cassius, now fugitives, raised armies to fight against Antony and Octavius, Caesar's adopted son. Though once united in their cause, Brutus and Cassius found themselves at odds, their alliance fraying under the pressure of impending doom. On the plains of Philippi, the fateful battle took place. Brutus, still believing in the righteousness of his actions, saw omens of death. His conscience weighed heavily on him, haunted by the ghost of Caesar, who appeared to him in the night, foreshadowing his defeat. The battle turned against the conspirators. Cassius, misled by false reports that his forces had been defeated, chose to end his life rather than face capture. Brutus, seeing the collapse of their efforts, fought valiantly to the end. In the final moments, knowing that defeat was inevitable, Brutus fell on his own sword, choosing death over dishonor. With Brutus' death, the last of the resistance to Caesar's legacy crumbled. Antony, finding Brutus' body, remarked that Brutus was the noblest Roman of them all, for he had acted not out of envy, but for what he believed was the good of Rome. The tragedy of Julius Caesar ended with the realization that in seeking to preserve the Republic, the conspirators had only hastened its downfall. Rome would soon fall under the rule of an emperor, and the ideals they had fought for would fade into history. Looking for more great reads? Be sure to check out other books by William Shakespeare. Find them in the description or on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in William Shakespeare's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.